As the Carolina Panthers officially put a close on the 2026 season in just a couple of days, it will also mark the start of free agency. While the pretty positions and the very fancy positions are the ones that are ahead the discussions in the media, that is, the real stories are about the certain players in the trenches and just behind the trenches that are just as important. And a position in which we currently don't have a single starter at under contract is a position that I believe is of desperate talk. I want to find out whom I believe needs to be that player that Dan Morgan and Dave Canellis need to be placing much emphasis on. Stay tuned to find out on Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Prowlers. Thank you guys so much for joining us again on another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Again, you are joined by the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And Prowlers, I hope you guys are doing well. I have had some things going on, but yes, here I am. It is coming down here in the GA. But that doesn't mean it has to be all bad, now does it? But I think we have to understand, you guys, that we're about to hit spring. But we also got another cold spell coming. So hopefully you guys are inside. And hopefully you don't have to go out too much in the next couple of days. But anyway, hope you guys are all safe. And don't have anything to report. You guys have been pretty quiet on the front. But that's okay. Just want to give you guys a little bit of a break from all of the monstrosity that's going on around here, from who needs to leave Panther Nation to who's made the biggest mistakes, etc., etc., etc. But you've seen very few people discussing the trenches, guys, and honestly, that's one place we've actually gotten right when it's completely healthy, which is important as to why we must continue that trend. And as many of you know, a lot of you know that Cade Mays is scheduled to be a free agent. Now, when this guy got drafted out of Tennessee a couple of years ago, I think he was a fourth or a fifth round pick when he came out of Tennessee. I never expected this guy to become what he's become. And I think a lot of that has to do with the current administration or the current coaching staff, how they've been able to utilize him correctly, and then just being able to, for Cade Mays to be able to, take advantage of his opportunity. Not going to say much about what they've not done for the tight ends and Xavier Legette and Jimmy Horn, but that's another story. But we now have a situation where Cade Mays is a free agent, and he's played himself into an opportunity. Now, while many of you, and myself up until about 20 years ago, didn't really have a clerical clue as to why the center position is not only important in the run game, but especially the pass game. And it wasn't just because of Peyton Manning. Stupid! So I know many of y'all will probably say, "Ooh, Peyton told us that." I don't want to hear anything about Peyton Manning. This is Joker that calls the kicker an idiot when the kicker scored more points than he did.
Dumb shit! Dumb shit! Dumb shit!
But that's not what we're here to argue. We're not here to argue at all, but we're here to make valiant points because, needless to say, we're in a situation where both Cade Mays and Austin Corbett are free agents. Corbett is set to make $1.5 million when he hits the market, whereas Cade Mays is arguably one of the top free agents on the market. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be nice if we could get a team like the Chargers who's really going to go all in on a center. And, being that Tyler Linderbaum is such a huge name that's floating around out there, that I would just absolutely, if we got this guy in our offense, or on our offensive line, going with Damian Lewis and Rob Hunt. But unfortunately, the Chargers have quite a bit of cap space, and they're going to probably throw an insanely amount of money at this guy, which I don't blame them, because honestly, that was one of their weak links last year. And that's including both of their tackles, their star tackles, being hurt. That was their weak link. So it would be very much a hope or a wish list, but get it out. But I would like to see if we could get Cade Mays to come back. But unfortunately, when you make a player like that and you're trying to get him at a dollar discount, generally they're going to be teams that are going to come around and they're going to give him top dollar. It would be great if he gave us a top level discount. Now, I know I'm going to be one of those guys that, recently said that we could upgrade from Cade Mays. And this is true. But unfortunately, it's going to cost us. And right now, there haven't been a whole lot of movement when it pertains to the Carolina Panthers and their cap situation. As I've said many times before, there are ways we could extend and make the cap work. But here's the thing I want you guys to think about. Many of you are talking about, oh, don't worry about it. We don't need to, take a step back from what we accomplished in 2025. And what I mean by that is we look at this team and we say, okay, this was a position we had locked. This was one. This was one. This was one. This is one. We don't need to deviate from that aspect of it. We need to try to figure out how to get better without compromising what we've already done. And see, so many of you guys are saying, oh, well, get rid of this and get rid of that. Look, you have to be realistic and ask yourself, do we compromise anything when we get rid of this guy? And see, this is why I'm so against the A'Shawn Robinson. Unless you take a defensive tackle in the first round, and then you have to ask yourself, well, what do you do about Aquano's position? Are you going to go left tackle with your next pick? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when I look at the mock, there ain't going to be a left tackle on the board that is really, in my opinion, capable of starting when we get our pick. I'm just telling you right now. You can say Demetrius Crownover from A&M, Drew Shelton, Isaiah World. I'm not, or Caleb Tiernan, whom I like out of Northwestern, but I like them for Taylor Moton's spot. Because here's the thing. Yes, there are teams with two really good pass rushers like the New York Giants, but very rarely do you see those teams that are, right now the Giants I'm not concerned with. But you are asking whoever comes in, whether it's Yosh Nijman or a particular young man in this draft, you're asking him to come in and play the most coveted utility position in the game. And the reason why I say it's utility is because it's necessary to keep the quarterback upright. Or you could call him a foundational piece. I call him utility, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a foundation. Yeah, it is a foundational piece. My correction. Y'all forgive me. Because left tackle, edge guy, lockdown corner, and cornerback are the cornerstones of a team. And now you're going to be saying, okay, we're going to prioritize center over left tackle. And then I've heard people say that they're not really sold on Ike Ekwonu as a left tackle. I get it. There are those in the camp that he played exceptionally well up until this point. Then you got he still has something to prove. And then you got people like me who are on the back and forth fence with Ike Ekwonu. Some weeks he looks exceptional. Some weeks he looks meh. And then there's some weeks he didn't look good. Ike Ekwonu has not shown the Rashawn Slater type deal. You know, he hasn't shown that he is that left tackle cornerstone. And when there's an if there, I think you have to kind of go back to the board and say, well, Taylor Moton's on his way. And he's got to come out, period. Moton's going to go eventually. Now, you can either choose to ring this bell now or give him a year in the league, and then when Moton answers the bell to go home, then you got your replacement. Or do you want to risk that a guy in a youngster comes off the bench his first year in the league and he's a starter? Unlike Taylor Moton, who had a season to study and prepare himself for life in the NFL. But that's not the topic. We're discussing what to do about Cade Mays. And guys, what it boils down to is we do not want to rescind, make a mistake, and decide, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, as opposed to either, you know, making a decision on Austin Corbett, or you take a guy like a Sam Hecht, 6'4", 300 pounds, whom I really love this guy. Parker Brailsford out of Alabama, 6'2", 290. Excuse me, you guys. Connor Lew, 6'3", 302. Brian Parker, 6'5", 306. Love that size, you guys. And realistically, Cade Mays is a dude who most of you don't realize. Remember, he was a guard. I was incorrect. He was a 6th round pick, you guys. So, in essence, you're talking about a dude who will be 27 years old when the season commences. And, yeah, he's going to be a dude that is possibly going to get a huge check. Because realistically, I don't know if Linderbaum, I'm hearing reports that Linderbaum out of Baltimore, the negotiations are not going well. And of course, the Chargers are extremely interested from what I hear. So you're going to see teams that are going to be exceptionally interested in Cade Mays. And like I said, the market for him being $12 million is not an accident. You know, people have not slept on the fact that Cade Mays was part of this running attack that Rico Dowdle had, Chuba Hubbard had, and then Chuba Hubbard the previous year. This is why I told you guys, y'all are sitting here drooling over Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle did not look good down the stretch. Now, whether he was dealing with an injury or not, I don't know. But realistically, he wasn't that dude the last couple of weeks. And people want to say, oh, well, you can't blame him for this and that. Oh, yes, I can. If you're going to sit here and say this is what you wanted and you weren't getting that same burst saying that you were dealing with a calf, dealing with a toe. Look, bro, you cannot sit here and be one of those guys that's sitting here saying that I want my own backfield. And then when questions come up about injuries and then you don't have answers for them. Like I said, I didn't want to go on this Rico Dowdle spot, but the reality of it is Cade Mays has played himself into a really good position. Like I said, is he the long-term answer for the Carolina Panthers? I'm not saying we should look away from him, but I think ultimately when we went through this one-year deal, see, there's a plus and a minus. I hear a lot of y'all say, agree with guys like Julian Council and Dennis Cox of Panthers Playbook saying, oh, just sign them on one-year deals and get rid of them. Well, here's the thing. Every time you do that, here's the issue. You got to go out and find that other needle in the haystack. Haven't we seen this mistake happen enough with Hassan Reddick? I mean, and the thing is, I don't have an issue with how you do that. However, when you sit back and you really analyze how many players you let get away, like now you're going to have to pay, Jalen Coker. And I know what some of y'all going to say, what about Turk Wharton or DJ Wanham or Pat Jones? You gambled incorrectly. I mean, look, the Hassan Reddick thing was pretty simple. The guy balled out. Pay him. Cade Mays last year. You got pay him. Brady Christensen coming back off of an injury. Common sense. Pay the man. Stop doing these ignorant one-year deals because they're going to end up biting you in the badunkadunk and then you're going to run around here looking silly. You can't sit here and make the wrong decisions every time. That's not smart. As far as Cade Mays goes, I really want to sign this guy, but now, like I said, you went from paying the guy $3 million. Now his market value is up over 12. That's what we're hearing. And, as I said, there are some pretty intriguing picks in this draft. Of course, Sam Heck is a guy, like I said, he's 6'4", 300. Now, keep in mind, Cade Mays was a converted guard. You could look at the guards in this draft, like Chase Basantis, who goes around Cade Mays' height and weight, 6'5", 320. I think Cade Mays is 6'6", 325. So many people have said that this guy is, I'm going to slaughter this guy's name, Olevanya Ione out of Penn State. This guy, 6'4", 330. This guy can play guard and he can play. I've heard talks about transitioning him to center. I like this a lot better than going into free agency. However, the problem you run into is you're asking a rookie to do this. And see, a lot of command goes into it. Now, I understand Cade Mays came in as a second or third year guy and started at center. But he at least had some type of experience playing as a center. And as I said, you're looking at a bunch of these big guys. And I'm going to tell you, what you love about having a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 330 pounds, he absolutely is a lot to stop or to go through when he's trying to penetrate and get into the backfield. And, of course, you got, like I said, Sam Heck, Parker Brailsford. Probably the one guy that I absolutely am just enamored with his size is Matt Golban out of Michigan State, 6'4", 312 pounds. He's projected to be, now this is according to PFSN. Everybody has a different approach as to where the rankings are. Like I said, I love this one because it updates weekly. Sometimes it misses out on players, but we're seeing the updates come in and you'll see those change at later dates. But what's really interesting about when I look at Matt Golban is the fact that he is very explosive off the line, which is what you want in this type of running game. We did okay in the interior last season, but I felt like once we lost Robert Hunt, that just went away. And I thought Dave Canellis settled too much on just trying to throw out of shotgun instead of more deception in it. I think our offense needs to be more read option, run pass read. I think that is where we are at, which is a lot of the reason why Bryce doesn't have a lot of throws across the middle. Because you're asking this guy to make decisions without fooling the second level at all. You're not giving him anything to think about. Which is why when your running game is not effective, it's not effective because you're not giving those linebackers that are cheating up the line of scrimmage anything to think about. It's not like you had a team last year was beating you with just 4 guys in the box. That's where you're at with the Seattle defense. Look, if the Seattle defense had something to look at, they wouldn't be shooting up there on the line of scrimmage. You had Eamon Rory in the backfield with no threat that you're going to throw the ball when it looks like it's going to be a run. Realistically, when you think about what this center position means, we have to settle on somebody because it does not matter whether we bring Yo Schneemann in or whether we bring in a beast like Francois Moingawa in the first round. It doesn't matter whether we take Monroe Freeling out of Georgia or Blake Miller out of Clemson. It doesn't matter if your center is not doing what they need to do. So, Panther Nation, we got to nail this, especially as a team that only threw it 52% of the time and ran it 47% of the time. And unless Dan Morgan has an idea of what he is going to do in this free agent market, as far as clearing up space, there's not really a lot of names out there that we can discuss. I mean, let's look at what we have on Spot Track. I mean, you're talking about Cade Mays is one of the top free agents, you guys. I didn't just say he's one of the top. You got James Daniels, who's going to be a free agent. He's 28. You got Connor McGovern, who's the Buffalo center. He's projected at $16 million. Then you've got Ethan Pacic from Cleveland. He's got a $10 million market on him. Then you've got Ryan Bates. And, of course, Tyler Linderbaum, who's got the highest tag out there at $17 million. And then, of course, there's an interesting story that I've read earlier today about Elton Jenkins. The Packers are in a situation where they could possibly, more than likely, going to move on for him because I think he's got a $20 million tag. So, realistically, it would make so much more sense if they parted ways with him. Now, here's the thing. Could the Panthers sign this guy? Now, he has struggled with injuries, but realistically, you need a guy that is going to be able to come in with his experience. I think he is 30, if I recall correctly. But see, playing under Nathaniel Hackett and being with Mike LaFleur, this would be a serious addition to this team because having played in a team that likes to run the football and throw it equally as much, this would be a huge I wouldn't necessarily say upgrade, but I think a guy who's due $20 million next year, I think he's pretty doggone decent. But realistically, you guys, we have to stop looking at the the Bugattis and the big time street hustler cars and start realizing that we can't score points if we're having trouble on the line of scrimmage. We can't sit here and just neglect the basics of offense and defense because realistically, we still got a couple of players we got to deal with, which I will talk about on another show because realistically, you guys know how I feel about A'Shawn Robinson, and unless we can upgrade and people talking about kill $10 million in cap space, it may be it may make sense financially, but common sense wise, it makes no sense to get rid of a guy who's produced almost on the same level as Derek Brown, and he's cheaper. Unless you have an answer. And I feel the same way about Cade Mays. If we're not going to sign him, we should not be piddling around with our fingers. We need to be figuring out, is it going to be guard transitioning into a center from the draft? Is it going to be a center in the draft, which I think we should go that route anyway? Or are we going to go into free agency? My answer is go into the draft. That's my point. And honestly, if Austin Corbett could stay healthy, I'll do you one better than this, guys. Go into the draft. If you don't want if you don't want to deal with the rookie struggles, because we are ready to roll. I think ultimately you still sign a guy, but you sign him to a 1-year deal. And then you go in and you say, hey, let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can get. But unless you draft a stud, like a Sam Hecht, why not roll the dice? Or an Iona, or an Ionye, or Basantis. Let me know what you guys think we should do about center. Do you guys think we should re-sign Cade Mays? Do you think we should let him walk and get a Tyler Linderbaum, a top-notch center? Do you think we should go into the draft, take a guard, convert him to center for the time being, and then possibly bring him back or just leave him at center? Do you think we go into the draft and take a pure center? Or do you think we just continue this do you think we start the whole musical chairs theater of this guy, that guy, that guy, this guy, that guy? And I've already told you that's not a good idea. But guys, make sure you let me know what you think. If you are a first-time viewer, make sure you put your name down in the comments. If you are if you have become a subscriber, make sure you put your name down so I can give you a huge growl out on the air. If you liked what you saw, give this show a thumbs up. And make sure you hit that bell notification if you are subscribed so you can catch all my shorts and my shows as they drop. Make sure you go over to the Facebook page, Growlin' and Prowlin', as well as joining the group at Growlin' and Prowlin' so you can keep up with some really cool polls as well as some really cool show topics that we'll be coming up with. Finally, if you want to keep up with me personally, make sure you go over to Growlin' and Prowlin' on Instagram and keep up with all my in-season, off-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, keep prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding.